Chapter 17. Winning Freedom. India's struggle for freedom from foreign rule was an important event of the 20th century. This freedom did not come easy, nor was it achieved by armed rebellion. India's struggle for independence was unique in many ways. First, it successfully tested the power of non-violence or ahimsa as a form of protest against the injustice of the British government. Second, it proved the futility of bloodshed. Peaceful disobedience of the unjust demands the practices of the government could force the British to step back. Third, it held that peaceful non-cooperation was the right of the people. It was seen as a weapon of protest against the wrongful policies of the government. Many in India as well as in Britain made fun of leaders who followed the path of non-violence. They wondered how could India win independence from the biggest colonial power in the world without weapons and violence. Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation and the pioneer of non-violence, once said, "First they ignore you, then they ridicule you, then they fight you, and then you win." However, a few incidents of violence did occur. Nonetheless, the Indian struggle for independence would always be remembered as a peaceful resistance to the colonial rule of the British government. Now, let us study the course of the freedom struggle after the Great Revolt of 1857. The Indian National Congress. The Indian National Congress was an organization formed in 1885 by a retired British bureaucrat named A.O. Hume. He formed the Indian National Congress with an aim to give the educated Indians a platform to engage in a dialogue with the British government. The British, on their part, wanted to pacify the Indian people and avoid any revolt in future. The first session of the Indian National Congress took place in Bombay, now Mumbai. It was attended by 72 delegates. In the beginning, the members of the Congress were moderates. They believed in requesting the government for reforms, but the British never paid much attention to their demands. Later on, a group of radicals emerged in the Congress who believed in fighting for their demands. This group was led by Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Bipin Chandra Pal, popularly known as Lal Bal Pal. They strongly believed in protests, strikes and boycotts as tools of protest against the British government. Partition of Bengal. The British government was worried by the rising tide of nationalism. The British felt threatened by the very thought of Indians getting united. So they decided to divide and rule. The victor of India, Lord Curzon, decided to divide or partition of Bengal in 1905. At that time, Bengal was the center of nationalism. It was also an important center of business, industries and education. Thus, to suppress nationalism and to weaken the economy, the British partitioned Bengal. Though the British partitioned Bengal in the name of administrative convenience, but their main motive was to divide the Hindu-Muslim unity and to divert the attention of people from nationalism. The partition was meant to dilute the national unity, but it worked the other way around for the government. Vande Mataram, a song composed by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, was translated into English. It helped spread the feeling of nationalism. The beginning of Swadeshi movement. Indians strongly opposed the partition of Bengal. Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Bipin Chandra Pal, along with Aurobindo Ghosh and other political leaders, protested against the government. The chief motive of the British was to earn profits by turning India into a market for their industrial products. Indian leaders asked the people to boycott foreign clothes and products. By doing this, they attacked the British economic interests. They asked the Indians to use products made in India. So, the Swadeshi movement aimed to sensitize people towards using the goods and services. Huge bonfires of British goods were made. Women and students participated in the movement. The Swadeshi movement started in Bengal but soon spread to the other parts of India. Unification of Bengal. there were strong protests against the partition of Bengal. The British government tried to suppress the movement. However, the government was forced to reunite Bengal in 1911. It was seen as a setback and embarrassment for the government. The capital of India was shifted from Calcutta, now known as Kolkata, to Delhi. India's participation in the First World War. The First World War broke out in 1914. Thousands and thousands of Indian soldiers fought and died for the British Army in the war. The people hoped that after the war, the British would free India, or at least grant the right of self-governance. However, by the end of the war, it became clear that the British had no intention of leaving India. In fact, the British became more ruthless. They imposed new taxes and brought out new laws. The Rowlatt Act. The Rowlatt Act was passed in 1919. This act was termed as a Black Act, as it authorized the government to arrest without trial anyone suspicious of working against the government. All the top leaders were arrested on the ground of causing public unrest. Mahatma Gandhi, who had returned to India from South Africa in 1915, asked people to oppose the unjust British laws. Peaceful protests were held all over the country. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre. On 13 April 1919, a peaceful public gathering of about 10,000 men, women and children was held in the Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar to protest against the unlawful policies of the government. A British officer named General Dyer came with his troops, blocked the only exit from the park and opened fire on the innocent public without warning. The firing stopped only when all the ammunition was used up. Thousands were killed and injured in this incident. This incident sparked fresh row of protests against the government and gave birth to another great movement. The Khilafat movement. The word Khilafat means protest. The Muslims in India were angered by the treatment meted out to the Sultan of Turkey. The Sultan was considered the Caliph or the religious leader of the Muslims the world over. The protest against this, various Indian leaders such as Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, N.A. Ansari, Saifuddin Khichli and the Ali brothers launched this movement. The Non-Cooperation Movement. In 1920, the Non-Cooperation Movement was launched by Mahatma Gandhi to protest against the Jallianwala Bagh massacre and the unjust and unfair attitude of the British government. Mahatma Gandhi asked people not to cooperate with the British government. People from all walks of life participated in this movement by peacefully resisting the government. They boycotted foreign clothes, picketed liquor shops, left government schools, colleges and government jobs, and abandoned government factories. The non-cooperation movement was a major setback for the government. The movement was later joined with the Khilafat movement and became a bigger problem for the British. This strengthened the Hindu-Muslim unity that the British were wary of. Unfortunately, a violent incident took place in Chauri Chaura in Uttar Pradesh in 1922. In this incident, villagers, agitated by the killing of some people, set a police station on fire in which 22 policemen were killed. Since Mahatma Gandhi believed in non-violence, he withdrew the non-cooperation movement when it became violent. The Simon Commission. The British were facing difficulties due to regular protests by the people and the deteriorating law and order situation. To pacify the people, the government set up the Simon Commission in 1928. The commission would hear the problems of the people and make suitable amendments. Though the commission had been set up to address the problems and needs of the people of India, it did not have a single Indian as member. Nationwide protests were held wherever the commission went. People shouted the slogan, "Simon, go back." Lala Lajpat Rai was killed in one such protest and G.B. Pant was badly wounded among others. Revolutionaries such as Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, Sukhdev, Chandrasekhar Azad and B.K. Dutt became active at this time. Civil Disobedience Movement. The civil disobedience movement, launched under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, was started in 1930. the Congress gave the slogan of Purna Swaraj, meaning complete independence. Gandhiji asked people to refuse to pay taxes, especially the salt tax that the British government had levied on the people. The movement was to be a peaceful one. This movement started with the Dandi March of Gandhiji and his few followers march from the Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad to Dandi in Gujarat. Gandhiji made salt to break the salt law. This movement spread throughout the country and people participated in it in large numbers. They broke laws and courted arrests voluntarily. The movement eventually forced the government to call the leaders and discuss their demands. However, the government backtracked on its promise when it saw that the movement was suspended. Quit India Movement. This movement was started by Mahatma Gandhi in August 1942. It aimed at throwing out the British government from India. Gandhiji gave the slogan of "Do or die" to the people. Most of the prominent political leaders were jailed during this movement, but the movement did not die. The British realized that their time in India was over now. Eventually, the government had to agree to hand over the power to the Indians. The British government agreed to free India after World War II in 1945. Indian National Army. The Indian National Army, also known as Azad Hind Fauj, was formed by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose to fight against the British. He gave the slogans Jai Hind and Give me blood and I shall give you freedom. India attains freedom. On 15th August 1947, India became a free nation and Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru became the first Prime Minister of independent India. But this freedom did not come without a price. The country was partitioned into two parts on the basis of religion. The Hindu-dominated part remained in India, whereas the Muslim-dominated part was called Pakistan. India became a sovereign, secular, democratic republic on 26 January 1950.